Good day to everyone. It's Monday, September 29th. It's the last video for this month, so hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Let me know if everything works fine, please. So if someone is watching here on YouTube, just please write something in our chat box. Let me just wait a few minutes for more people to join in. Okay, yes, all is fine. Thank you, Anis. So, best in the world. Okay, so as you know, we had some recent strong US data, and the dollar made a very nice pullback recovery firstly last week. But now I think that after a rebound on stocks that we have seen on Friday, the US dollar came back to the downside, and we have some challenging week ahead, in my opinion. Now, what we have to understand, because basically I still think that the dollar is very close to important potential bottom. I'm not saying that this has already been triggered, but what, 10 days back or so, when Fed cut rates. But what is really important is that whenever significant tops and bottoms will form, not all of the markets will see high or low at the same day, same week. Okay, so for example, we could see something like this on maybe on one currency, and then you will see on the other currencies that will make a new high and then turn to the upside, and then you will see maybe some weaker currencies pressing the price much lower. But overall, all of the markets will be in correlations, but not each market will make high on the or low on the same day, on the same week, right? So we have to understand that now, if really dollar is moving closer to potential bottom, still it could be a bit challenging, because you may see maybe Mexican peso, which is looking very strong, still printing new highs versus the US dollar, while maybe that won't be the case maybe on the euro dollar, or maybe on some other currencies like pound. So that's something that we have to understand, and it will be very important maybe for this week to be very selective if you will be trading these dollar pairs. So why I am saying that it could be a bit tricky and challenging this week is, as you know, last week and a week before, we said that most likely the dollar is headed to the upside, and that we are seeing a bottom formation here. So that was the easiest part, because we know that even if you will see just a temporary recovery, it should unfold in 3 legs. And this is actually what happened. Dollar rallied in 3 legs. So at the end of last week, I was not sure. I didn't know if maybe that was only wave C of a corrective advance and we will see a move back to the lows, or maybe we are already in a wave 3. But what we have now so far is that market is reversing very nicely to the downside. I have to admit that this looks like the dollar could again see more downside pressure. So in my opinion, you will have to be very selective, and other major currencies could even see more upside, not to mention Japanese yen, because on hawkish BOG comments you also have the RBA in less than 12 hours or so, who also could be hawkish, because inflation in the last reports came up higher. So this is something that we have to consider. Now, if we take a look on the wave counts here, it's still, my primary count shows that after all, of course, we are approaching the bottom. But I prepared this another interpretation, another scenario, which shows that what if we see another push to the downside here? It's certainly possible. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that in the next week, maybe even more, it will be a bit challenging and tricky situation. That's why you will have to be very selective. And if you think that dollar will resume to the downside, well, in such case, you should maybe focus on on currencies that are doing very well. For example, as I said, Mexican peso is quite interesting in my opinion. So dollar, a bit tricky situation, but we will have both two wave counts on our radar screen, and we will try to define the next important leg for the dollar once we will have a little bit more of confirmation price action. But looks like that this week we could see prices moving slightly to the downside. Looking at treasuries here the picture is a bit different. We are still trading below that trend line resistance, and the reason why I think that maybe we could rally first and then see more weakness, especially if this lower trend line support is broken here, the gray trend line, is because if you look on a smaller time frame, there you can count 5 waves down, right, from the most recent highs. So I think that maybe now it's the period where we could consolidate a bit higher here, and this possibly will also impact, of course, the dollar in the near term. But overall, of course, I am still expecting that US yields at some point will find some new gains, will push to the upside, but maybe we are not in that in that early stage of that moves just yet. We just firstly maybe have to pressure the prices a little bit lower first, with the dollar index, maybe, as I said, maybe even retesting these lows. Also looking at the euro dollar, so last week it was very, if I can say this way, it was a very easy call because we had an impulse down, sharp reversal from that fat spike high, and then just a temporary recovery. So we were looking for further weakness. But now, if I have to step back and again maybe try to call the next leg with greater confidence, well, you have only 3 legs down. So for me to say and confirm that we have a top in place, it would be definitely too soon. But I would be in that camp, especially if the lower trend line is broken and we see a push beneath 116.50, then I really think that the euro dollar will consolidate towards much lower prices. But somehow now we are in this neutral zone, so watch maybe 118.22. If this one is broken, you will have a confirmation that that was a 3-wave drop, and we will see one more push here, as you can see, for a final high. So if you will maybe go to even smaller time frame charts, like an intraday, like 30-minute time frame chart, you will see that this rebound from that was what, from Thursday, it has impulsive characteristics. So it really seems like we could see more gains in the near future here. So don't be surprised if the euro would strengthen maybe after some potential pullback during the US session. And if really we see this one push above 118.22, then that would be the wave count to track. But still, as I said, we are in the late stages of this dollar bear cycle, or euro bull if you wish. So I still think that this year we will see important reversals on these markets, and who knows what will be the trigger for this reversal. We also maybe could see some surprise on the stock market. As you know, stock markets, even if it moves up, this won't just continue in one direction. You will see a retracement, and if we see suddenly some fear, that could trigger maybe some recovery for the US dollar. And of course, if that's an ending diagonal here, and if we are in the very late stages of this recovery, we know that any kind of reversals could be very sharp. Now, if we take a look also on cable, this one, as you know, as we discussed, hey Tarek, how are you? So we discussed and called the bearish moves, at least temporary in this one, after we identified a completion of an 3-wave ABC rally right up here at 137.27. And notice that that was only one leg down. So after some rebound, we expected more weakness. Notice what happened. We have seen a very nice reversal lower. We even spiked here below these September levels and we stabilized. So again, the easiest part for potential call here is already behind. It's a done deal. But now what I see here is that we could stay stuck in this range for a bit longer. So maybe this is going to become a triangle, or maybe if this resistance at 1.3530 will hold, it could be even a flat, and we'll see continuation lower a bit later on. But even this wave structure, at least if I try to focus on a smaller time frame, suggests that even pound could see, which was very, very weak, one of the weakest basically recently, even this one suggests that we could see some recovery, at least for a free wave movement back here above 135 area. So after some retracement here, I think there is maybe a worth to keep an eye on the potential intraday bullish developments, because maybe if you're more like a intraday trader rather than a swing trader, maybe that's where you could find some opportunities on retracements. If you're looking maybe to be long pound, I definitely suggest to wait on something more clear, and definitely it would be nice to see a completed correction here from July highs, July highs, before we can confidently look for the next big leg. I just think that for now we will have to focus on some levels, and as long we will be trading beneath these key levels, of course we will have to focus on a smaller intraday structures, which could give you some interesting opportunities still. But as I said, if you're more focused and on intraday setups and not holding trades more than, let's say, 1 to 3 days. Now let's take a look also on Aussie. So Aussie is also in a bit tricky situation. I was looking for deeper correction after that sell-off. So again, back then we broken this trendline support, we rallied for temporary, could have been wave B, and then we dropped to new low, so new swing low. So that was again the easy call. Now I'm not really sure if that was only ABC decline, or maybe will this current weakness resume even lower. But as I said, RBI is going to make a new decision regarding interest rates. Of course, they are expected to stay on hold, but there could be some hawkish comments that could support the Aussie. So even if that happens, I still don't think that we will see a completion of this correction, because if that was a free wave rise and the previous leg to new high here was in three waves, even the whole situation here from July could be some kind of a triangle. So again, Aussie is also a bit tricky, but if we would see something like that, if that from the most recent lows, you will see sharp impulse and then some pullback, then of course maybe on the intraday retracement there could be a bit more gains. But as I said, overall, a lot of, as you can see, a lot of dollar pairs is showing some tricky situations, and that's why I'm saying that we will have to be very selective this week and maybe very, very patient and wait on some key levels and confirmations to confirm for this dollar weakness to resume, or maybe even we will see a surprise with the dollar strength. Looking at dollar CAD, maybe this one is much clearer to me in the short term, despite having some very nasty overlapping wave structure price action here from June lows. Always when you see this kind of a price action, it could be a bit tricky to analyze, but of course WXY in such examples is the most appropriate. So here what I would be looking for, since we have seen this push out above this red trendline resistance, I think that after pullbacks there could be more gains, since I'm tracking wave 4 that could retrace back to the area of a previous fourth wave here from May 13. So this is pretty interesting level. It's also 1.4 level. It's a psychological round figure, and I think that this could be seen as a magnet now, especially on dips, but then the major resistance that could cause a new reversal down for dollar CAD. So for now, as you can see, Canadian dollar in general is very, very weak compared to other commodity currencies. So whenever dollar would maybe suddenly bottom, well, you know what to look for. you want to trade probably versus the weak currencies. Now looking at dollar yen, so dollar yen came to the downside from this upper trend line, which might limit the gains here for a wave E of this expanding triangle. However, it's Monday. You know how I feel about Mondays. They are a bit tricky to trade because especially when you see on Monday some sharp moves, and then you will see the Tuesday reversals that will try to shake out, to clear out some of the positions that were placed on Monday, and after these executions, that's when market could find the real direction for the week. So it's a bit tricky here for dollar yen, at least for me, to say that we will move straight to the downside. But the wave count itself, it shows that we could at least be headed back to this potential triangle pivot here around 147.40. But if we will see this level tested by the impulsive sell-off here from that recent swing high, then of course we would be quite confident that after a rebound we will continue even lower. And keep in mind that this reversal that we are seeing right now is not just some kind of a dollar story. It's more a link to BOG, who were hawkish comments earlier this morning, because somehow they're seeing this 2% inflation being a new normal, and they still see this inflation risk because of tariffs, and that's why maybe this has some serious impact, at least at the moment, for dollar yen. But overall, when it comes to wave structure, or like I posted not long time ago, what it was 2 weeks back or so, on cable, when I discussed about what is the clear wave structure and where we should focus on, where and on what kind of a price action we should focus on. It's something that it's clear, it's directional. And if you look at the dollar yen here, it's definitely not something that would catch my attention and where I would confidently say where we are going from here. So that's, despite seeing some chances for this wave C sell-off, it's not the wave structure where I would be looking for any kind of opportunities, at least not at this stage. Maybe some intraday setups or scalps that I also take sometimes in our chat room. Of course, that could be a different play here, but certainly would have to see, as I said earlier, maybe in this current intraday sell-off that would extend closer to 147.45, and then I would try to sell maybe the rallies. Now looking at dollar versus Swiss franc, keep in mind that Swiss National Bank, they are watching FX rates. They could intervene if needed, and they will if the Swiss franc will see new highs, especially versus dollar, or versus, maybe even more important, versus the euro. So we are still not in that phase yet, but keep in mind that Swiss franc could really maybe, it's not that attractive if they would move to negative rates. So it's not really maybe surprise for me to track potential bottom formation here. Could be an ending diagonal, as you know, but for now this reversal from the lows, it's not really in 5 waves yet, but maybe even a leading diagonal could potentially show up here, and later on we'll see some retracement and then a push to the upside. But when looking here, maybe try to focus on few months ahead. I just think that Swiss franc could see some more weakness, and the dollar could be much higher. But as I said, the Swiss National Bank has eye on the euro Swiss franc, especially when it comes to some kind of interventions. And if you look some longer term charts here, I just think that we really can be headed to some extreme levels here, especially when it comes to the cycle analysis. And if suddenly we see any kind of a strong push to the upside on Swiss franc, especially versus euro, I just think that they will act, and you could see some very strong and serious reversals in months afterwards. Now let's take a look also on metals. So gold, silver, they keep pushing to the upside. Silver, I think it could attack 2011 highs if it already didn't. So what we are looking for, well, as you know, still we are in this strong leg out of that triangle that we have been tracking through summer. So we successfully called this break to the upside, which is now becoming even more extended and strong. It's just the fact that everything what is happening, especially from geopolitical perspective, from inflation perspective, of course, gold still appears to be like the best place to hide, and that's why we are keep seeing this this thing moving to the upside. But when it comes to the cycles, of course, we know in what kind of a stage of a cycle we currently are positioned. So if someone is holding gold, of course, on metals in general for a longer period, of course, maybe that's not really important for you, because after any kind of a deeper correction we will anticipate more upside. But if you're more looking for some trading setups, I really do not see anything that would catch my attention here at the moment, because if we really are that high here, of course we could see some retracement, and maybe some bigger corrections will still show up this year. And if we take a look maybe on here on the 4-hour time frame, there is a chance that we are in a fifth wave, if we consider that was maybe might have been a wave 4, or maybe not sure where my labels disappeared here, or maybe that's still a wave 3. But even if that's the case, you should, or you would expect some kind of a pullback for a wave 4. Also watch the RSI divergence here as well. So again, it's bullish, but not something that I would want to chase up here. The silver obviously is much more important one. It's outperforming gold quite a lot, and we have been talking about this already months back based on the gold-silver ratio. And I adjusted the wave counts on silver, since I really think that we have to respect what the silver is doing. And notice that firstly I was observing the potential resistance here. That's the spike from August of 2011. It was slightly above the 78.6%, also the top of the channel. But since we are seeing a very strong push to the upside and we are approaching end of the month, looks like that we will have monthly close well out of this channel. I certainly have to respect what the market is doing and not forcing my bias, my wave counts. So here I'm just looking now for that we are basically in a wave 3, and maybe before metals could finally see some retracement, maybe silver firstly have to retest this April 2011 high. So this could basically, when some will call that we are at new all-time highs, when media will go absolutely crazy, well, that's when we will have to be very careful, and this will be exactly around $50 here. So be aware still, maybe this year that this wave 3 could come to an end, and you will see then some massive interesting pullback in a wave 4, which could be the next cycle of opportunities when some bigger retracement will show up. But as I said, gold silver ratio is something to watch for. Last time I was discussing that we are in a fifth wave here, coming out of this fourth wave triangle, and we know that this wave 5 is the final leg then of this current impulsive cycle, right? So there could be some recovery, and maybe there is still a bit of more weakness possible towards the lower trend line support here, extended from 2021. So maybe we still have some room left for more upside on silver, maybe, as I said, closer to 2011 highs. And then if we see some stabilization down here and a new corrective rise, well, this could maybe then also trigger some consolidations as well on both gold and silver, because that's usually what happened whenever gold silver ratio moved to the upside. Both gold and silver were consolidating, like you can see here in these yellow boxes. I'm not saying that this will happen now, I'm just saying that if 2011 highs are going to be triggered. If at the same time we will see this gold silver ratio at these levels, maybe it will be time to see and be aware of some retracement, but definitely worth to watch and be ready for more upside after pullbacks. Now looking at crude oil. So crude oil, I want to share this chart. It's at some very important big level, it seems. Notice that if you look back here, even from 2009, it was very important zone here around 65 to 68 dollars, right? So recently we came, as you know, here few weeks back we came slightly to the downside towards $60 per barrel, and now we came back into this zone where once again looks like the prices, the bears could trying to step in. So in my opinion, there is still a chance that we will see a push to the to the downside. So last time I was discussing about a triangle and the 61.8%. Well, I was wrong on that call, because apparently a triangle is becoming much more complex. Firstly, I thought that that was wave C, that was wave D, and that was wave E, but notice that market pushed, extended even higher, but still it looks like we have the pattern that suggests more weakness. So because that low from August 12 hasn't been really breached, I just still think that we will see more weakness, but unfortunately I do not see a completed pattern yet. I still think that triangle is the best potential wave count here, but at least if that's the case, you can expect that prices from the upper side of the range could be now headed to the lower side of the range. So we are seeing pretty aggressive sell-off. I also updated the intraday wave structure as well for our members, and they know what to anticipate from my analysis there. And I just think that there is a chance that we will see further weakness here. So that's for crude oil. Now let's take a look on German DAX. So German DAX still, it's somehow consolidating, not really seeing any kind of interesting price action. But when it comes to cycles, still we are here already in that pullback from all-time highs for what, more than 3 months. So we could be closer to potential end and complete this corrective cycle. We even saw some very interesting rebound last week, but notice that so far we have only 3 waves up, and we stopped recently right at this potential bullish level here around 23,900. I'm keeping an eye on this one and 24k as well. If we can close above this one on a daily basis, then I think there's a very good chance that we will start printing higher levels. But when it comes to maybe just trying to identify some simple horizontal supports, somehow I still see this one as a very important one here around 23k. So if suddenly we see a reversal back to the downside, let's say in the next few days, then I think that this is going to be the next massive support. So it doesn't mean that DAX will be in bearish mode, just even deeper, more complex wave 4. But I am personally watching what will happen there down here. If we see a bounce, I would be ready to act. But here at the moment, I just don't think it's worth, because it's a bit tricky price action. And if you see 23,390, expect this 23k to be retested. If you see a daily close above this bullish level, then we could continue straight to the upside. Now let's take a look on the S&P 500. It has seen a rebound, but still we are tracking this 5th wave that could be trying to see some limited upside, maybe at the upper side of this Elliott wave channel. So nothing new really to add to this one from last week. Whenever, if this market surprises you and you will see some massive reversal to the downside, just don't freak out. It will be just another wave 4 within uptrend. Now here I also, let me check my list. I prepared some of the single stocks here. So here we have Amazon, Ford, Johnson&Johnson, McDonalds, nvidia, and Tesla. So here we have Amazon. I've been looking for this potential flat correction here in a wave 4, and looks like that this one is coming now, is trying to come into very nice interesting support for a flat around 210. So watch out what will happen down here. I think that we could see some stabilization and potential rebound. What I really like about this stock is that we still have that, despite this current retracement, which by the way is quite deep, 12% or so, we still didn't retest these highs from February. So in my opinion, that's a consolidation, and that sooner or later we could resume higher. Now, if we take a look also on, where are you? Okay, on Ford. Now this one I presented weeks back. I presented the bullish look that this gap that is still unfilled, it was from earnings here back released back in July. So that was a massive gap, and since we bottomed with this potential wedge formation and broke through after and even continue higher after this retest, I just still think that there is a chance that we will try to fill these gaps. But of course we are now coming into new period of earnings, so watch out for the data, and of course some new gaps will occur, but that's when also volatility will show up and potential opportunities as well. So I still think that Ford is headed higher, but if we see suddenly some deeper prices, in my opinion $10 or $11, that's still a pretty interesting support level. Now if we take a look on Johnson&Johnson as well, I think we even shared in our blog post, because this one has been taken from our as you know, US single stocks reports, but we also shared a free analysis and posted, I believe, on a blog post as well, because we had some very nice and beautiful wave structure. Overall, the decline here from 2022 highs was clearly overlapping, and you can see that now bullish momentum is coming back, especially when market firstly broke this corrective channel here around 162, and then even moved well beyond here of this base channel. So this suggests that we are in the middle of a higher degree extended wave 3 cycle. So after this pause, looks like that we are now headed even higher. And I also like the idea that after having some very nice pullbacks here, we still aren't at this 2022 high. So this looks like a magnet that that could, and the target that could be achieved in the next few weeks. Also, let's take a look on McDonald's as well here. This one is a bit maybe on the first eye looks like a bit tricky, but then if you zoom out a little bit, you can basically see that we could be in a wedge. I know that sometimes it's be tricky to say how to trade within a wedge, but what is very important whenever it comes to the Elliott waves principle is that you look at the price action from the highs or from the lows if you're in a downtrend. Now here we are in an uptrend, but notice that that drop has been made by 3 waves, right? So it means that it was a correction, and that this correction should then be fully retraced. So at some point I think that 326 will still be seen. So I think that this could be now a sharp drop, sharp pullback for a wave B, and we could see more upside here later on for a wave C rally. And even some other wave count suggests that what if this is some kind of a triangle and you're now in a wave E, so that this can also be a running triangle, and also a bullish interpretation. So both interpretations suggest that McDonald's is still going to maybe find some new buyers and try to print further gains here. Now looking also on nvidia as well, this one recently recovered away from this 165 170 that we in the past called as a first support zone. Now we are just trying, not really moving impulsively up yet, so I'm not really confident that wave 4 is finished here. It's certainly possible, but I'm also prepared and aware that maybe a bit longer consolidation time is also very probable here as well on nvidia. So the triangle is something to watch for. If suddenly we see any kind of a deeper pullback, still would be fine. I just think that the next deeper levels to watch would then be around 150. It doesn't mean that market has completed this impulse up from April. Just think that wave 4 would then be more complex if we really would see this lower retest here. So my opinion, sooner or later we are still going to see more upside in wave 5. Now if I have to guess based on cycles, maybe we will see here wave 5 moving before earnings that will be released in November, and that's when we should be very careful, because we know that markets, especially when it comes to nvidia, are focused on nvidia earnings a lot, and that's probably the most important driver for investor decisions. Now let's take a look also on Tesla. So that was like months back I said, and even back here I warned that Tesla could see a massive deeper retracement. I was able even to count here 5 waves down, and then after some consolidation we were looking higher, closer to 400 levels. But notice that this level has been now broken quite significantly. Maybe even we'll see new highs. I'm not sure about that, but it's definitely a stock that I'm not interested at the moment. However, I adjusted the wave count here on a longer period here. Now first and the primary wave count still shows that we could be in the middle of a triangle, especially if we'll not see a push here above recent highs and we'll suddenly see a new drop. Then this could still be a triangle that is incomplete. That would be very nice, basically, because then after some massive pullbacks there could be very interesting opportunities then in 2026. But if we'll see a new high here straight from here, then watch out and be very careful, especially around 600, because then I think that that's the pattern we should watch for. I think that 600 could be a very important resistance, since this could be then the 5th wave with an ending diagonal. So that's the second wave count that we are tracking, and as I said, we have to just keep an eye on both wave interpretation to discover potential opportunities here. And as I said, it would be nice to see pullbacks first while market is not printing new highs yet. Then new opportunities will show up. If we're holding Tesla already and waiting for new highs, then maybe just be very aggressive on stops or exits once we will, especially on stops, once we will start trading closer to 600. Now let's take a look also on cryptocurrencies. So here we are firstly looking at net unrealized losses. We've been covering this one in the past, and we said that always, not always, but usually when you see this data moving into some kind of extremes, Bitcoin could be closer to potential support. And last week we have seen some very nice movement here, very nice levels. It was some extremes. We're not really close to not really above that August extremes, but close enough. So this data alone shows that we might have seen some very interesting support on Bitcoin, but I'm still very careful here, and the reason is because there are massive stops that are still sitting here below this 107k. In my opinion, that still have to be triggered and collected before market could potentially stabilize. We even have some stop losses that are now trying to from those that are shorting the market here just around 120k. Even these levels could be firstly triggered. If that would be the case, we could see a reversal lower later on. So these are the liquidation pools that we should definitely keep an eye on, because whenever price reaches these levels, it could mean that market is ready to turn. So somehow we are now in the neutral stage, but when it comes to the wave structure, I'm still in the camp that, as I said, that we will maybe broke beneath 107k, and then potentially we will try to stabilize. But at least in the short term, looks like that there could be a bit more upside closer to 114k, because I think that even if we are headed lower, that was the completion of a first impulse and you are now in ABC correction. However, don't just, maybe if you're more like an intraday trader, don't just blindly jump into the market here. Keep an eye also on gaps. We have a new gap here on futures around 110k. Okay, so if we see some pullbacks, maybe this could be interesting support for some recovery through the week, right? But could be only temporary recovery. I'm still in the camp, as I said, that we are still in the middle of the deeper correction and that we will retest slightly lower prices. If market will just stay sideways here, not going anywhere between these big levels, then of course that's also the potential wave count. It could be some kind of a triangle here. So as you can see, we have a lot of tricky period ahead of us, I believe, and as I said, that's always usually the case when you are maybe closer to potential tops or bottoms, especially when it comes to dollar itself. Now looking at the Ethereum, now as you know, we have been looking and warning about the pullback as soon as the market made this push closer to 5k. And what's interesting now is that so far we have only 3 waves down. We don't know if that's only ABC correction, or maybe this current weakness will resume lower into an impulse, but certainly it's worth to keep an eye on some alternate wave counts, because that's when also you may find some interesting opportunities. So here I presented and showed this wave count, and also made some video for clients last week, and I said that that's worth to watch, especially if we'll see an impulse on a smaller time frame. I don't see this happening just yet, but if we'll see some lower prices maybe retested here between 3,400 and 3,700, and you see an impulse up from there on a smaller scale, that's when opportunities could show up. It would be really interesting if this would happen at the same time when Bitcoin would try to liquidate maybe those positions here below 107k. Okay, so Ethereum, it's worth to watch if we'll get a new rebound on cryptocurrencies, because I think that if altcoins will try to make some final push higher across the board, Ethereum is definitely one to watch. Even Litecoin itself could be interesting after this drop, but it's not really completed yet. Last week I said that watch out for 100 level, not 100k, but 100. So we came down quite nicely here, but if we try to focus on the subdivisions, maybe one more low is in front of us, even wave C to wave A, which is usually quite useful guideline. So this level comes in of a support around 93. So watch out these levels down here, maybe 97 to 95, 93, as I said. This could be quite interesting zone for potential new stabilization. When it comes to Solana, well, this one, it's a bit shows a bit different situation. It has an impulse from the highs, so what I would be aware of here is that maybe there will be at least ABC drop towards deeper prices, but of course it could be much worse if we consider that this might have been a counter trend movement, but there are some chances that that's basically a leading diagonal. However, I will not go into details and confuse you with a few. What's the most important right now is that that's an impulse, and that after some near-term rebound we could see at least one more leg down. Traders, thank you very much for your attention. It was a bit long video or webinar, sorry, so hope you enjoyed the content. Make sure to visit us at wavetraders.com. We have, as you know, paid services for the FX and crypto, but US stocks, single stocks are free. This latest report has been uploaded 10 days ago. It's still a lot of single stocks were covered. A lot of charts are still fine here, but I will make sure maybe to update some of those single stocks in the next few days. So make sure to register on our website. You can apply and access this stocks absolutely free until we are in this beta version. Traders, thank you very much for your attention. Good luck this week. Bye.